Ever wonder what truly makes an audience gravitate towards you and your content? And I don't just mean to watch one or two of your videos, read one or two of your blog posts or articles. I mean to truly binge watch you like a Netflix show to the point where this person says to themselves, I'm so excited I found this person. Where has this person been my entire life? And they are looking for the links around your posts to see how they can buy from you because they are so drawn into your free content that they can't wait to pay you to get more of you. Well, I've discovered that there are 4 levels of content creation, and each level reflects your amount of impact and income. And so, what I'm noticing is that people tend to oscillate or ping pong back and forth between level 1 and level 2. This is where you are starting to feel frustrated because you know you have a deep transformational message for people, but the content isn't somehow reflecting that. Maybe you're not getting the kind of engagement that you want, you're not getting the amount of sales that you're looking for, and you're feeling so much bigger inside than the results that you are gaining. And you're wondering to yourself, well, what am I doing wrong? How is it that I feel so big on the inside, but my content isn't reflecting that? Well, that's because you're oscillating between level 1 and 2. And before I can even tell you what these 4 levels are, there is something about content that you actually have to accept in order for you to reach level 4. That is that content is an ecosystem. Now, why am I even telling you this? I'm going to tie it all in so it all makes sense. In order to look at ecosystem, we have to look at nature. In nature, an ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and its physical environment. So, we're going to take a look at a bee, for example. A bee interacts with a flower. A whole process happens, and then we, as humans, the physical environment, get honey. We consume that honey. Well, let's take a look at your content. You've got one piece of content and another piece of content. Two organisms, they're going to interact with each other to paint a picture for your audience. They're going to create honey, if you will, so that your audience can consume. And so collectively, your content is working with each other to paint a picture for your audience that you can help them. Why does this even matter? Why is it important? Because it takes the pressure off of one piece of content having to do all of the heavy lifting. You're not going to expect one piece of content to bring in all the followers or one piece of content to bring in all of the sales. Just like we don't expect one bee to make all of the honey. It just doesn't work like that. And so this really takes the pressure off so that we don't feel like we got to put so much pressure on ourselves to do the most perfect thing with this one piece of content. But when you are consistently improving on these elements that make content more gravitational for your people, then you're going to develop an entire ecosystem of content for people to binge watch. And so this doesn't mean that you have to be perfect now. It means that you've got one organism of content, another organism of content, and you're going to keep repeating that process. And so let's dive into these 4 levels. The first level of content creation is education. This is where you are creating content by telling people your knowledge about a specific topic. You are telling people what you know. And so I kind of describe this as being a textbook where you've taken what is in your brain and you have put it onto your piece of content, whether you're writing posts or you are creating video, but you put your knowledge on to your content and it sounds like a textbook. Now, the problem with this is that this is very factual based and it doesn't elicit any emotions in your audience because it's just factual. And we know that people buy because of emotion. So if you are feeding them a lot of education, a lot of knowledge, and it's all factual and you sound like a textbook, they're not drumming up any buying emotion within them. And so it's easy for people to create this kind of content because it's been ingrained from the educational system that knowledge is power. Now, I don't disagree, but I want to add a caveat. And the caveat is that applied knowledge is powerful because we can have a lot of power, but not know how to use that power. My brain just went off into thinking about like TV shows or movies where there's a child who starts to recognize that they have all this power and they could, do this with their hands and like objects in the house start flying everywhere, but they can't control it. So they have knowledge of that power, but they don't know how to use it. They don't have proper application of that power that they have. And so what I'm seeing is that people are putting all their knowledge online, but what's happening is your audience is not making a connection that your knowledge is the thing that is going to help them. And I know that sounds crazy because you're thinking to yourself, I'm really smart. I know I can help you, but it's not being conveyed to your audience just because you are telling them what you know, because that's exactly what education in your content is sounding like. It's sounding like, "Hey, I'm smart." And so you're telling people how smart you are. You are showing people what you know and all of your accolades, and they're like, "Good for you." But it's not making the connection in their brain that what you know is going to be able to help them. And so we also have to take a look at the fact that there's no shortage of knowledge right now because we've got ChatGPT and Google and YouTube, and people are searching for all kinds of things all of the time. So they're collecting a lot of knowledge. But what they don't have is that application. So until your content starts to help them apply that knowledge, then there's going to be a disconnect. Just think about people who know a lot about working out. They can watch all the videos, but they maybe can't apply it to maybe they got a shoulder injury or a knee problem going on or a back pain issue. And it's like, I'm watching this person do this exercise, but I don't know how to modify it to me. Or maybe the person is really busy and just doesn't have good enough habits. Well, they might have the knowledge of exercising, but they don't know how to apply that with their busy schedule. They're not quite sure how to fit it in. And so the other problem with this kind of, level of content where you're just sharing your knowledge and sharing your education is that there's no belief that your audience is able to get wrapped up in. And what I mean by that is you're sharing factual data, but it's not instilling belief within that person that a solution exists for them. So it's really important that we start moving up the chain in content creation levels. And so at this educational level, though, this is where we start to see income that is either non-existent, so you haven't made any money, or income that is just like so sporadic, where it's up and down. You might have a lot of sales and then have a long period of time before you make another sale or another couple of sales. Or maybe you're making frequent sales, but they're so spread out to the point where it's just not anything consistent coming in. So that is level one. Now, level two of content creation is presentation. This is where you create content that shares insights taken from your experiences. This is where you start infusing some subtle elements of storytelling, where you start taking some of your insights from your experience and sharing that in your content. And you might be telling more stories about yourself. You might be telling more stories about people you've worked with or some different situations that you've been in. And you are being now insightful. So you are no longer just saying, here's what I know. You are sharing levels of insight with your person. And so what you've done now is you've increased the belief factor of your audience to start believing that you can help them because they are now being gravitated towards your insight. And so that is starting to create a unique edge for you in the marketplace because everyone has knowledge and everyone generally has the same kind of knowledge, but it's the insight that makes that knowledge unique. And it's the insight that makes your person on the other side of the screen saying, "Oh, this person can help me. I really like what this person is saying." Because if everyone's sharing the exact same, 5 or 6 facts about a particular topic, well, what makes that person different? Nothing. So this is why we need the insight, because the insight is unique to your experience. And because we are all human beings having our own experiences, now you're actually starting to speak the language of your audience by being insightful. So that is a subtle element of storytelling. What you'll notice at this level is that you start making a little bit more money in your business, and the money is consistent and the sales are a lot closer together. This is where you have established a floor, meaning your income just won't go anywhere below that floor because there is just a level of conviction you've started to develop within yourself. You've got new kinds of belief, and you're also creating some momentum in the marketplace. And so you're feeding off of your internal motivation. They're feeding off of you. And so you now have external motivation to keep going. And so that is feeding you, and it's also feeding your income. So there is a floor, but that means that you've also hit a ceiling where your income isn't going beyond a certain amount. And so you're basically oscillating now in between the floor and the ceiling of your income. Now, you may have a month or two where things spike up and you make a lot more, but those are rare and they're not consistent. But what that indicates to you is that you are kind of graduating into that next level of content creation. Now, level number three. Oh, let me say this about level number two, actually, about presentation, is that this is where content actually starts to become a little bit more fun. I have run into many people who just don't have a good relationship with social media, don't have a good relationship with content. And I think because they are viewing content as a chore, they're not viewing content as a service to the people that they're here to help and a service to their mission or a part of their mission. And so when we don't have a good relationship with content or a good relationship with social media, it tends to not be fun. But I found that in the presentation level, we start having more fun because we're sharing insights. And so we're starting to have more of our creative expression coming through in our content. I always say that content is an expression of who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And so where people tend to really lack is not knowing in who they are. You might know what you do, you might know how you help, but the part that really trips people up, believe it or not, is who they are. Because the school system has spent so much time, training us and deconditioning us from ourselves and making us follow a path of just conforming. And so now it comes to creating content where we get to be completely expressive. It's like we don't know how to do that because we've spent so much time marching to the beat of someone else's drum that here on content, you get to march to the beat of your own drum and you get to be expressive with your own ideas, your own concepts. And so once you start moving into this presentation level, content becomes a little bit more fun because you've developed a better relationship with it because you are having more fun and you're starting to realize your impact that you are making and the income that is also flowing as a result of that impact. So level 3 of content creation is communication. This is where you create content with articulation of your value through use of certain elements that make content memorable. Now, I have developed an acronym for you so that you can remember, well, what are these elements of storytelling that makes content memorable? I want you to remember the acronym FAMS, F-A-M-S. F is for framework, A is for analogy, M is for metaphor, and S is for stories, FAMS. When you start using frameworks, analogies, metaphors, and stories in your content, now you are creating memorable content. And it's memorable because you are helping your audience now to feel something. And when your audience can feel something, now they will remember you. They'll remember how you made them feel. And then they'll remember that you are the person that has the solution because they're going to want more of that feeling. Remember when I said that your audience buys because of emotion? Well, everyone's audience buys because of emotion, but People buy because of emotion. That's really what I'm saying. People buy because of emotion. So when you start to use FAMs within your content, the emotion that you are eliciting in people is a buying emotion. And the reason for that is because they are feeling full, they're feeling served by you. So the question to ask yourself is, well, the content that you're making now, how is it making someone feel? Is it making someone feel the benefit of working with you, the benefit of the solution that you provide? Or is it making someone feel like they're just going to have less money in their bank account? Because those are completely different feelings. If the person can only feel like they're going to have less money in their bank account, then they're not going to want to exchange their money for your help because they don't feel helped just from listening or reading or watching your content. But if someone can feel helped by your free content, then they're going to want to pay you because your free content is already eliciting that emotion within them that, hey, I got to pay this person because I'm already being served by this. And so what you want to do is you want to take your knowledge and you want to put your knowledge in a framework. Just like I'm creating this video right here, the 4 levels of content creation is something that I have worked on as I've continued to work with clients for the past 3 years one-on-one in this particular business, because I've had 2 other businesses prior to this. I have devised that, hey, I've noticed that there's some themes and there's some trends with people who are creating content. And when I started to look at the pieces, I started to realize, well, there's a level in which we have this much impact and this much income to this much impact and this much income. And what is each level? What is the description of each level? And that's how I came up with the 4 levels of content creation, where I can clearly see that, hey, when we start mastering our communication, this is really where we start making a lot more money. So I took my knowledge and I put this into a framework, into a concept for you to understand and for you to consume. Now you can look at your own content and see, okay, am I in education? Am I in presentation? Am I ping-ponging back and forth? Ooh, I need to move up to communication. I need to add more stories and have a framework and use an analogy. Because guess what? I'm going to say an analogy and you're going to remember it. I'm going to tell you a story and you're going to remember it. I'm going to tell you some kind of a metaphor. You're going to remember it. You're going to remember this 4 levels of content creation, this framework. So I'm creating memorable content for you. And now when you go off in your day and you're creating your own content, you're going to remember what I said and you're going to come back to the video, or maybe you're taking notes and you're like, ooh, Siobhan said this, this, this. And so now you're going to apply this knowledge to you. So I didn't just give you knowledge. I'm helping you with the application by now telling you that, hey, you can apply FAMs, right? So you get to do exactly the same thing with whatever topic you teach on, whatever topic you help your people with. So this is the kind of content that literally makes your audience feel like they have their own internal power. They start to feel hopeful that a solution exists, but they also really believe that they are a person who can achieve that solution. Because how many times have we seen something online where it's like somebody can do something, but maybe you don't believe that that's possible for you? But when you are in the communication level of your content creation levels and you start using these frameworks, analogies, metaphors, and stories, now people have more believability about their power and their ability to do the thing, their ability to achieve this solution, or achieve the result and have the solution, but more so do this with you. That is the key factor. When you are the person that is changing the mind of your audience, they can't help but to pay you because you've already changed their mind. You've already changed their belief. You've already made them feel powerful. You don't just give them knowledge, you gave them some application. So with that application, they now feel like they have something to use. And now they're going to want more. So now they're going to want to pay you because you didn't just make them feel like they're going to have less money in their bank account by paying you. You made them feel like, hey, this is really beneficial. I can't wait to take my money out in exchange for the solution, for the result that you are going to provide for me. This is so essential. When you use FAMs, you are helping your audience to see something. People who see things tend to believe things, right? And so when you believe something, now they can believe in you and the way that you help them. And that is why using FAMs is so important in this communication level, because you're creating believability by them seeing something. What is it they're seeing? They are seeing the image in their mind that you are now creating with your words. So even just me giving you the example in the education phase of one of those movies or like Netflix shows of a child who has power in his hands and he starts doing this and doing this. Well, you've seen a TV show or a movie like that, right? And so now you're starting to see, oh yeah, that person had power, but they didn't know how to use it, right? Just in the example of working out. Yeah, I know what to do, but I can't apply it to my busy schedule, or maybe I got a painful shoulder and I don't know how to modify this. I'm helping you see what I am saying. And by helping you see what I'm saying, you are believing what I am saying. So when you do this for your audience, they now have more buy-in because they can see visually, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. Why? Because you're making the connection for them. People who get paid the most are salespeople, right? Why? Because they've learned how to use their mouth. Like God gave us a voice, not just making noises. God gave us a voice to articulate with words. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. So we get to use our mouth to make money, to speak life, to impact people, to influence people, to transform people. We get to use our mouth to do that. I think that is one of the coolest things. And so, why not train ourselves now on the skill set to improve on the gift that God gave us? Let's improve the skill set of content creation so that you can get paid more, so that you can service more people and you can get your message out there so people are served. I just am so fascinated with just really interconnecting how much impact and influence we can really have with our ideas, our thoughts, and our concepts. God literally gave us gifts so we can serve each other, and he's feeding us and we're feeding each other. I think that's so cool because it really goes to show how much we really need each other, right? We are all interdependent. And so if everyone got this skill down, then we would all be servicing each other and each other's businesses, right? I just think that is super, super cool. And so this is really where you start to evoke emotion. That's the whole point I'm saying. This is really where you start to evoke emotion in your person that makes them feel really good about themselves, make them feel like they're not too far behind. There is still hope for them. And they are really anchoring in to the fact that, hey, a solution is being worked out for me, and you're going to be the person to help them do that. What I love about the communication level of the 4 levels of content creation is that this is also where people start inviting you to their podcasts. They start asking you to be a guest speaker. They start asking you to do workshops and guest speak. And this is something I started to notice for myself is as I got better in my articulation, in my speech, in my ability to convey ideas, people were asking me, hey, what is it you're really teaching over there? Because I think that is going to be helpful to my community. Is there a way that you can take what you're doing and adapt it? Absolutely. And so now I'm getting asked to speak on people's workshops or in-person events and just other kind of like training summits. And it's all because of just having different levels of articulation, which helps you communicate and convey these ideas. If people aren't picking up what you're putting down, then that means that you can't transform their life, which then means that you can't get paid. And so you want to be able to work on that level of skill. If level 3 sounded like so fire and so good in the communication phase where you just blew the roof off of your income, what is level 4? Drum roll. Level 4 is authentication. This is where you create content from a place of true congruence with your God-designed purpose. This is where you are in alignment spiritually, mentally, and physically. There is a direct congruence with all three of those planes, with God's designed purpose. Now, I think it's cool. I like to do word studies. The word authenticate means to prove, it means to verify identity. It's like when a police officer, you know, comes up and he's got his badge. That authenticates him. He's proving who he is by showing you this is my badge. Well, the thing about creating authenticated content is that when we are in alignment spiritually, mentally, and physically, we can't help but to be who we are. We are just naturally expressive of our ideas, and there's a level of energy and beingness that is underpinning all of our words. This is why people can have a sales page that literally says the exact same thing as someone else, or create a piece of content that says the exact same thing as someone else, or even recreate a YouTube video that says the same thing as someone else. But each piece said by each person is going to come off very differently because the underpinning energy is going to be different. It's like when someone says, I'm sorry. They could mean it or they could not mean it. The words are the same, but you know when someone means I'm sorry. You know when I'm sorry feels empty. You know when I'm sorry feels like a void. Or maybe you have a child and you're like, who took the cookies from the cookie jar? And they're like, not me. And then the other kid goes, not me. But you know which kid did it just based off of how they said not me, right? You know if your kid is lying just based off of how they said what they said. So it's not the words, it's the underpinning of the words. This is authentication. There is something that happens that literally like clicks into place. It's like it clicks into place when you are authenticated. And that is when you are in full congruence and alignment. This is the area or the level where you have nothing to hide, nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to gain. You're not trying to make anybody in your audience think anything about you. You're not trying to prove yourself to be an authority, prove yourself to be a leader. You just are. The people who have confidence are the people who don't need to say, I'm confident, because the way that they move, the way that they hold their body, the way that they speak, it exudes confidence where they don't need to say it. They are it. So this is why you don't need to try to look like an authority or look like a leader, because leaders just move. People who are an authority are just an authority. Their words communicate that, and so do their actions, and so do their belief systems. What I found is that even in the communication level, you can say the right words, not have the right energy behind all of the right words, but you're still going to be able to make more income. You're still going to be able to break a lot of barriers because you are connecting with your audience. You are creating still some kind of emotional resonance, but you yourself might be feeling maybe a bit of a void at times. And that's because you might be out of alignment in one of those areas, whether it's spiritual, mental, or physical. Or something might just be a little bit off kilter, but you're still going to make the money because you are still developing the skill and you're still doing the skill and you're still able to produce levels of content that gravitates an audience. But when you become authenticated, this is a level of beingness. Ain't nobody could take this from you. This is not anything anyone can replicate. They can replicate your words, but they cannot replicate who you are. And this is the edge in the marketplace. This is why the market isn't saturated, because you yourself are so different than everybody else, and no one can take that away. Even if they're all saying the exact same words, even if they've copied your words, they can't copy the blueprint of your energy. They can't copy how you are showing up because you're not trying to make anybody think anything of you, and you don't care if someone else thinks something of you that isn't even true. This is the part that we really need to let go. And I think this is one of the reasons why people stay stuck in the communication and don't really move up into authentication, is because you still fear not being liked. You still worry that people might not like you and you want to please everybody. You want to make everybody happy, but you really want to be authenticated. You got to be okay with people not liking you. Not everybody liked Jesus. Right? So we really have to understand that we're developing the calluses to be able to withstand people not liking us. And it's okay because guess what? You don't like everybody anyways. So why is it that you expect everyone to like you? That's just that people pleasing habit, that people pleasing tendency. You know, it's like when someone walks into a room and they don't need to say anything, just how they walk in, they're postured up, if you will. That level of posture is what makes you look. It makes your head kind of do a whiplash. And it's like the room looks at that person just by how they walked in. Why? Because their actions, their physiology, how they walked in, how they move their body caused a level of energy to go through the room that people turn their heads. And so when we speak and we are authenticated, people are listening, but people are also pulled in. It's almost like, you know, when you're in kindergarten and the teacher's doing like story time and all the kids are like this. It's like they're just watching you because it's how you move. They can't help but to take their eyes off of you because they are gravitating towards you just because of who you are. And your values are now being exuded through your content, through your speech. And this is something that can't be replicated by anybody else. This is what it means to be authenticated. When you verify your identity. Something I find really fascinating about the word identity is that it comes from the Latin root idem, I-D-E-M, which means the same. And it comes from the Hebrew root of oneness. And I think that's so fascinating because it's like, well, who is your identity the same as? Who is your identity one with? Is it one with or the same as the world? Or is it one with or the same as God and the way God sees you? And so this is what it means to be authenticated, where you know whose image you are made in and you move like that. And so therefore you don't have to worry about what other people are thinking about you or how you have to be because you know who sent you. You know what mission you're on. You know the God-designed purpose that you are living out. And so if you've identified that you are at level 1 and level 2, then you want to start sharing more of your stories, frameworks, analogies, metaphors, infusing the FAMS acronym. If you have found that you are in level 3, which is communication, now you want to ensure that, hey, am I completely in alignment with the way I'm thinking, with my spiritual beliefs, and with my physical action and my physiology when I'm showing up in my videos, or maybe you're writing a blog post? Are you in alignment with that? Are you completely being expressive or are you holding back? Are you afraid to speak truth or are you holding back? Because if you're holding back, then you can't be authenticated. And so I want you to see, where do you particularly identify? So to go from 3 to 4, you also want to have aligned offers and prices. You want to stick to your boundaries. You want to operate with success principles. And you want your actions to match your words, where you got nothing to hide, nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to gain. And there's no show that you're putting on for anyone. Going from 3 to 4 requires a spiritual upgrade more than anything else. Because if you're at level 1, 2, or 3, it means that you likely have some behavior on the physical plane that you are putting out action. You've got some beliefs, your mental is there. But that 3 to 4 level is generally where I see having to increase your level of spiritual knowledge, your spiritual capacity, a level of spiritual endurance, and truly understanding what it means to see you the way God sees you, and completely aligning and completely identifying with that level of image for yourself. So you're holding the image in your mind that he has of you, not the image that the world has of you, or the image that you grew up in, or the image you've been holding on for yourself that other people gave you. It's completely having a spiritual upgrade. I trust that this video blesses you. Drop it in the comments. What level of content creation are you at? I would love to hear from you in the comments, and I will see you all in another video. Bye.